Quite a while back, humankind depleted Earth's normal assets, making society plunge into bedlam and war. The best researchers on the planet took the mission of saving what was left of human progress and made hereditarily changed orchids that turned into the new energy source. Anyway, people actually battled about their disparities, so the researchers additionally made the change. At the point when they turn 16, each individual carries on with a groundbreaking activity that changes them into their absolute best self. These individuals are known as pretties, and since they're awesome and blissful living in the city, struggle is kept away from. The people who haven't gone through the methodology yet are classified uglies and remain in the residences in Uglyville. Count can hardly hold on to turn into a pretty and continually utilizes an application on the mirror to see her how she take care of the method. Her closest companion is Paris, and they call one another Nose and Squint since adolescence. Now and again they go to the extension during time limitation hours and utilize exceptional glasses to watch the pretties celebrating in the city. Count will turn 16 out of 90 days, however Paris is more seasoned and he's getting his activity tomorrow. They have matching scars on all fours. They won't allow the specialists to delete them when they become pretty. At that point a watch drone flies by, so they run back to their quarters. The following day during gathering, Count hears different understudies examining the smoke, a secret spot outside the city drove by some person named David. It's said many individuals get away from the city and conceal there, however most understudies don't believe it's genuine. At that point a multi-dimensional image of LED Representative Link shows up and gives a discourse on the significance of being pretty and great. Then, at that point, every one of the people who turned 16 are called and Count expresses farewell to Paris while advising him to meet her at the scaffold in 1 month. At night, Count watches the firecrackers over the city and recalls the day she met Paris. Her folks had recently dropped her at the quarters and Paris was behind her in line. They traded monikers and hit it off, so they immediately turned out to be close as companions. On one occasion Paris coincidentally cut his hand while taking a tablet from Count, so she got similar scar while they vowed to remain companions until the end of time. Days pass and Count adheres to her daily practice of going to class and checking out at herself in the mirror. She frequently checks her connection point ring as well, yet there are no messages from Paris. Following a month, Count utilizes her ring to hack the window open and leaves it behind since it has a tracker. She sneaks around and comes to the scaffold, however Paris hasn't appeared. Getting stressed, she utilizes a rope to hop on the extension and perilously moves under it until she comes to the city. She sneaks around by taking cover behind the plants, yet when a partygoer drops a veil, Count snatches it and puts it on. The cover puts on a multi-dimensional image on her body, making it seem as though she's wearing an extravagant dress. Presently Count can get into the party, and she's flabbergasted by all the designs. At last she finds Paris, who looks totally changed and doesn't perceive her. Count removes her cover and inquires as to why he didn't go to the scaffold, so Paris makes sense of things are different now and he doesn't have the foggiest idea how he could connect with her any longer. Count can't completely accept that what she's hearing and acknowledges the amount he's genuinely changed when she sees his scar is no more. At that point the security framework distinguishes her presence and Count needs to take off from the approaching watchman. She stalls out in a gallery, so she takes a bungee coat and bounces. The fall is fairly lengthy, however the coat makes her bob and land tenderly close by all things being equal. Then, at that point, Count shows out of the city to moving under the extension once more. At the point when she incidentally kicks a stone into the water, a robot tracks down her and draws nearer to capture her. Unexpectedly her cohort Shay shows up and causes Count to get on her hoverboard so they can take off to get away. The robot has a go at following them, however Shay is a quick driver and figures out how to lose it by doing lots of insane turns in the forest. To say thanks to her for the assistance, Count breaks into the kitchen and takes a few bites. The young ladies bond over their encounters and that it is so difficult to be left behind when every one of their companions turns 16 first. They understand they have a similar birthday and get eager to have a companion to turn out to be pretty with. The following day Shay brings a second hoverboard and takes a stab at showing Count how to utilize it, yet she promptly falls. At school Count is stunned to see a few young ladies give Shay back a book since those aren't around any longer. The young ladies are dazzled by the text's portrayal of getting by in nature and keep thinking about whether that is what the smoke is like. Count gets the book while the young ladies call her cool for her trick the previous evening, which drives her crazy since it implies Shay told everybody. She's apprehensive they might rebuff her by denying her the activity, yet Shay guarantees her the framework maintains that everybody should be a pretty. As days pass, Count peruses the book, however she actually continues to dream about the activity. Shay keeps on showing her how to utilize the hoverboard and consequently Count continues to hack with her ring to get additional food. Count likewise shows Shay her lovely plans on the application, however Shay doesn't have a record. She isn't amped up for the activity by any means, as a matter of fact. In the long run Count figures out how to fly well and the young ladies utilize their hoverboards on insane slopes to have a good time. At the point when Count gives Shay the book back, she says she wants to visit that wonderful nature, and Shay specifies that it wouldn't be so awful not to get the activity, but rather Count imagines that is insane talk. Out of nowhere, Shay specifies the smoke and takes Count to the edge of the forest. Subsequent to leading their rings on certain branches, they cross the boundary by riding their hoverboards over the waterway. At last they come to the remains of an old city, and Shay informs Count concerning old items like roller coasters. Next, Shay brings Count into a neglected structure and drops reality. The smoke is genuine and David will show up soon. Shay won't get the medical procedure and will leave this evening, so she maintains that Count should accompany her. Anyway, Count turns her down, saying she would rather not be free, she needs to be pretty. A resentful Shay gives her bearings to arrive at the smoke in the event that Count at any point adjusts her perspective and embraces her prior to leaving on her hoverboard, following the indication of David's fire in another structure. The following day, it's Count's birthday, so she goes to the facility for the medical procedure. Anyway, they call everybody with the exception of her. Then a gatekeeper removes her in an airplane to see Specialist Link, who makes sense of Shay is absent. Count says she is clueless, yet Link can see her vitals on a screen that demonstrates she's lying. Link lets Count know that Shay is in peril since David programmed her, and he's known for holding individuals despite their desire to the contrary. At the point when Count demands she is clueless, Link sends her back to her quarters without getting the medical procedure. That evening, Count hears a commotion and is shocked to see Paris showing up at the window. Count makes sense of what occurred, and Paris figures she ought to tell Link what she knows so they can at last be together. The following day, Count is again taken to see Link, who tells her David is fostering a weapon to go after the city, so she wants Count to penetrate the smoke. Count consents to help, and that's what Link guarantees. Assuming she's fruitful, she'll get the medical procedure. She likewise gives Count a jewelry that glimmers in her eyes, which she should enact when she tracks down the weapons area. A short time later, Count adheres to Shay's guidelines and rides the hoverboard on the old thrill ride for a couple of miles. In the end, she tracks down a hole and falls in the forest, however she's gotten by a power field. There she finds deserted train tracks, which she should follow to track down the smoke. For the following couple of days, Count makes do in the wild like she read in the book and respects nature more than ever. She likewise will ascend a mountain. The train tracks have a major hole in a gorge, so she gets on the hoverboard once more and takes a major leap that closes down the board. Count begins falling extremely quick, yet before she raises a ruckus around town, the hoverboard reactivates and she arrives at the opposite side of the gorge. Presently she needs to stand by in a field of blossoms like the directions said. In the meantime, Link carries Paris to her office, uncovering he went to her residence an evening or two ago on the grounds that she asked him to. Paris lets it be known felt significantly better to be visiting the area, as though he could think plainly once more. Then, at that point, Link reports a limited handful have been decided for another methodology, and Paris consents to enter the medical procedure machine to get body improvements. That evening, Count awakens hacking on account of smoke. She finds the field is ablaze and doesn't have the foggiest idea what to do, yet unexpectedly a strange individual gets her and removes her. This is David, who starts checking Count and her things for trackers. He finds one inside the hoverboard and eliminates it, however his scanner doesn't respond to the accessory. Simultaneously, Link's men get an alarm about the tracker being taken out, and she sends individuals to look through the area. In the first part of the day, David and Count come to a smoke station, where Count will rejoin with her companion. Shay is really eager to see her, however Croy is dubious. The gathering camps for the evening, and Shay gets some information about the jewelry, so Count imagines it was a gift from Paris. Count is astounded to see Shay blissful after what Link said and attempts to communicate her concerns, which makes Shay think she came to persuade her to return. A contention results and Count consents to allow the smoke an opportunity. The following day, Count discovers that the smoke stars fires deliberately to copy the orchids since they're really poisonous and annihilate any spot they're planted in. Count doesn't really accept that him and says the orchids were the spotless energy arrangement, yet David makes sense of that as an administration untruth and that the blossoms are moving the planet toward a no man's land. He needs to take Count on their main goal to demonstrate it in Croy fights, yet Shay vouches for her. The gathering has an old helicopter that they fixed with sunlight-based chargers, and they go on a flight. Presently, Count can see the region where orchids used to develop, which is only desert. Utilizing a flamethrower, Shay torches however many orchids as could be expected under the circumstances. At that point, Croy's tablet distinguishes somebody coming, so David brings the helicopter down to conceal in the smoke. The development looses the rope holding Shay and she falls. Link's scout scent are drawing nearer, so Count ties a pack toward the finish of the rope for weight and loses it prior to utilizing it to go down. The helicopter begins to lose lift while Count searches for Shay among the blazes. Fortunately, she views as her, and when a scout attempts to draw nearer, Count gets the sack ablaze and tosses it at him. Then the young ladies clutch the rope and the helicopter takes off just before a scout can bounce on as well. After the gathering lands, Croy brings up the scouts might have just found them due to Count. However, Shay guards her, and David thinks any individual who puts their lives in danger for a smoke genuinely deserve an opportunity. The gathering camps for the evening, yet Count can't rest since she continues to consider Link and how she trained her to control the dissidents. She leaves the tent for a walk and finds David washing in the stream, so she gets thinking back to the tent to conceal her shame. The next day, Count is blindfolded, lastly taken to the smoke, where an entire local area is flourishing in nature. Count believes it's harder than in the city, yet she concedes food tastes better when you develop it yourself. Indeed, even elderly individuals should work, and there's no cash, so things are shared or exchanged. Above all, everybody is there by decision. The train tracks are being reused to make apparatuses, however they make no weapons since they're radicals. One evening, Count finds a bizarre entryway and has a go at glimpsing inside, however Croy discovers her in the act and sends her away. Count begins utilizing apparatuses to assist with the tracks, tastes zesty nourishment interestingly, and shares the moves around the fire. In a little while, David shows Count how to utilize a hunting crossbow, and they partake in their time together. It takes her a couple of attempts, yet at last she stirs things up around town target. Returning, David makes sense that he never saw the city since he was brought into the world in the wild and grew up with his loved ones. Count is stunned to hear this since she scarcely knew her own folks. Then, at that point, David gives her a couple of gloves. At that point, a smoke part returns from Orchid igniting with an injury, saying the scouts are still near. She additionally makes sense of those scouts were quicker and more grounded than typical. A short time later, Shay sees Count breaking the gloves and focuses down. It's no joking matter. Objects have different worth there, and David made those, so giving them to Count implies he loves her. Shay advises Count to pursue her decision as of now and quit playing with them. The following time, Count goes on a stroll with David. She makes reference to she heard gossipy tidbits about a weapon to obliterate the city, so David takes her to a house nowhere near camp. There she meets David's folks, AZ and Maddie, who are the ones protecting every one of the books. They used to be corrective specialists for the public authority and got dubious of a couple of tests, so they began to explore. It turns out the actual changes were only a cover to conceal the reality. Individuals got their cerebrum modified as well, turning into a lovely method, being stupid and slow under a phony feeling of bliss so the state could without much of a stretch monitor them. The activity has additionally killed many individuals, which was kept mystery. At the point when Link acknowledged AZ and Maddie knew reality, she took all their examination. Individuals working for the state like specialists were really given a fix so they could think obviously while working, so David's folks decided to escape the city and become old, typically in the forest. They've been searching for a method for reproducing the fix, however there's an engineered part they don't have, so they just have a base serum. This is the supposed weapon that could obliterate the city. After the gathering is finished, Count tosses her neckband into the fire, deciding to remain with the smoke. She likewise takes a stab at let David know that she's done horrible things, however he doesn't mind since she's a renewed individual now. Then they share a kiss. In the fire, the jewelry sparkles. In the first part of the day, city airplanes show up at the smoke and open fire. Everybody begins taking off and the scouts pursue them, just to succumb to the snares currently set up like nets and logs. Tragically, they're excessively quick and solid, so traps aren't sufficient to stop them. Before long, they're wrecking and catching each radical on their way, including Shay. Count figures out how to find a concealing spot with David, who needs to go out to help. Anyway, she stops him since they're areas of strength for excessively him. The pair sneaks to where they're assembling everything. The detainees and Count is crushed to find Paris has turned into a scout. AZ and Maddie are caught simultaneously. Link shows up and requests to know where David is. The Guardians won't talk, so Link orders Paris to kill AZ. David and Count head out to stop him, yet entirely it's past the point of no return. Then Link lets everybody know that Count has been working for herself, and presently the smoke individuals can't stand her. While everybody is occupied, Maddie conceals the serum in David's pocket. As Link declares everybody will get the medical procedure, Count rushes to the stockpile shack and lights a fire. She likewise snatches a crossbow and getaways through the window while a scout attempts to break in. Abruptly, the fire causes a blast and it tosses the scout back. It likewise permits David to take off. A scout comes after him, but Count stops him with a bolt. Paris needs to join the pursuit, however Link announces they're leaving. A few scouts obliterate Maddie's exploration and set the region ablaze, while the others drive every one of the detainees into the airplane. After they're gone, David accumulates the couple of provisions he can find for a salvage mission. Count takes a stab at moving toward him and he goes after her with a blade, scarcely preventing himself from harming her. She needs to assist him with protecting the others, and he brings up he has little to no faith in her any longer, so Count makes sense that he really wants her since he's never been to the city. In a little while in the city, Count moves toward the understudies that read Shay's book and acquaints them with David to demonstrate that the smoke is genuine. Count gets a connection point ring from them and requests that they accumulate heaps of children to make an interruption. Before long, a lot of young people express the smoke flies overhead utilizing their hoverboards. In the interim, David and Count trust that the airplane will depart the facility and get inside utilizing hoverboards as well. They go through the airplane passage and land securely on account of the bungee vests. They cautiously sneak around and Count utilizes the ring to hack a lock, however this isn't simply a kitchen and it doesn't work. Unexpectedly, the entryway is opened by a pretty and David promptly begins battling him. They trade a couple of hits before David overwhelms him and holds him against the wall, so Count takes his ring. Then David tosses him in the passageway and Count locks the entryway. As the cautions go off, the pair tracks down the phone and uses the ring to free everybody. Count acknowledges Shay isn't anywhere near and Croy uncovers she was at that point given a medical procedure. While the vast majority of the gathering get away, David, Count, and Maddie goes searching for Shay, yet when they come to the lab it's past the point of no return. She's as of now a pretty. Count cries and apologizes, yet Shay swears she cherishes it. At that point Link and Paris show up and drive the threesome to get into the machines so they can at long last get the medical procedure. The cycle starts, yet before the needles can begin cutting, the Smoke's helicopter shows up outside and Croy starts shooting with the flamethrower. Link and Paris are compelled to run and the machines get harmed, so the framework fizzles and the activity stops. The triplet emerges and Count snatches Shay while Maddie gets the part she wanted from a cabinet. The gathering rushes to the rooftop and tracks down Paris, so Count attempts to make him see reason by utilizing their epithets and bringing up a piece of glass gave him his scar once more. Paris tenderly contacts Count's face and David believes it's an assault, so he handles Paris and attempts to battle him. Paris is serious areas of strength for excessively continues to whip him, however before he can kill him Count utilizes a hoverboard to move quick and handles Paris, making him tumble off the edge. He hangs on briefly and says her epithet before he falls into a cascade. Subsequently the gathering escapes on hoverboards and see different youngsters making the robots run into one another overhead. They conceal in the unwanted city and Maddie takes the serum from David's pocket to wrap up blending the fix. Anyway, she can't rest assured assuming it'll really work or have terrible incidental effects for the mind. Shay would rather not take it and Shay won't compel it on anybody, so Count volunteers to be the guinea pig. She'll hand herself in and allow them to perform the medical procedure so she can then take the fix, promising to save a sign for them to be aware on the off chance that it works. The airplane and Link are coming, so after one last farewell, the gathering takes off while Count allows the scouts to capture her. In a little while Count is the ideal pretty living in an exceptionally extravagant condo. She swears she cherishes being this way, yet the scar on her hand uncovers she's still herself and lying as a government operative.